Welcome back to Los Angeles. We usually get the weekend box office numbers from the movie studios late Sunday night, but Warner Brothers is holding off on the Dark Knight numbers until this morning, given the massacre in Colorado. Ben Tracy is here now with us in the studio on how they're handling the situation over at Warner Brothers. It is a very dicey time for them.
For sure, and there was an unprecedented sign of solidarity in Hollywood this weekend. None of the studios released their box office numbers on Sunday. For Warner Brothers, this was really part of walking a fine line between responding to this very human tragedy and managing what could be a major blow to its business.
Gotham's reckoning.
The Dark Knight Rises was the most anticipated movie of the year and the most important for Warner Brothers' bottom line. It was expected to top $180 million this weekend, but estimates leaked to the media peg the box office take closer to $160 million. That's still the third biggest opening weekend of all time.
The instantaneous knee-jerk reaction when news first broke of this was that, oh, nobody's going to go to a movie theater because they're going to be afraid. That's not happening. Americans are very resilient. They know this was an isolated incident.
Yet at a theater in San Diego this weekend, seeing Batman was not escapism.
It was different in the simple fact that I wasn't just engulfed in the movie. I was also thinking about my surroundings and what might happen.
After the shooting in Aurora, Warner Brothers canceled international premieres in Paris, Mexico, and Tokyo. The studio pulled the film's most violent TV ads and lowered the flag on its Burbank lot. The actors expressed their shock and sadness, while the film's director, Christopher Nolan, put out a statement saying, "The movie theater is my home, and the idea that someone would violate that innocent and hopeful place in such an unbearably savage way is devastating to me."
There's a discussion inside the organization. How far should we go?
Michael Citrick is an expert in crisis communication.
In your experience, what do you think they did right?
I think they did everything right. I think they acted quickly. I think the statements they gave struck the right tone. There's a reaction and there's an overreaction, right? And so you have to have a balance. It is a business. I think they've handled it very well.
There's a lot at stake. Batman is one of Warner Brothers' three biggest franchises. The Batman, Harry Potter, and Lord of the Rings films have made the studio $12 billion in the past decade. Batman can be endlessly rebooted unless it's tainted by this tragedy.
What we want to see over the long term is how the film will do after the news of this kind of quiets down a little bit. Certainly, this movie is on the minds of everyone around the world right now, and so that's a very high-profile place to be.
Now, many of the tickets for showings this past weekend were actually bought days ahead of time before the shooting, so the question now is whether those ticket sales remain strong or if they drop off.
Yeah, that remains to be seen. But I thought the man you talked to raised a really good point, that for the first time he found himself looking at his surroundings. So it does change the experience of going to the movies, I think.
For sure. We had other people said that they were very conscious about what seat they chose to sit in the theater. So if you're going into the movie theater, a place where you're going to kind of escape the rest of your life and be entertained, if those are the things you're now thinking about, it's changed the experience of watching a movie.
Do you know if Warner Brothers, Ben, ever thought maybe not to cancel, but to maybe delay the movie for a second?
It's hard to know what they talked about. I mean, you assume they went through all the various options, but this movie cost $250 million to make. They've spent $150 million to market it. So there's so much money on the line. I think at some point pulling it out of the theaters or delaying it probably just wasn't realistic.
But I hear reports of them toning down the violence of what they're showing.
They have, and they're looking at future movies and saying what's appropriate, what do we have to take out.
All right, Ben Tracy, nice to see you.
Nice to see you too.